Alright, Battlefield 6. You know, obviously, it's everywhere. Everybody's playing it, including me, obviously. And so I know you've seen a lot about it, but I really wanted to come and give my impressions of the beta. So yeah, I'm just going to go through almost every aspect of the game that I can think of. We're going to compare it to Battlefield 5, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 2042. Talk about the highs, some of the lows, thoughts I had, and just really my impressions of the game and how excited I am for it to come out, like everybody. So, yeah, let's just jump right into this, starting off with... Alright, map destruction and levolution, in my opinion, is the single greatest mechanic that separates Battlefield from any other shooter franchises. Not only does map destruction make the game feel realistic and open, but it creates chaotic and cinematic moments in every single game you play. Battlefield 1 and especially Battlefield 5 had amazing map destruction. Rocket launchers could level buildings, tanks could blow holes in walls. Not to mention, both games had pretty great levolution. In Battlefield 1, you could completely destroy bridges, as well as make blimps fall out of the sky. Not to mention, Battlefield 5, almost villages on every single game would be reduced to rubble by the end of the match. Despite this, Battlefield 2042 pretty much goes back on everything that is established in the previous games. I think a big reason 2042 feels so alien as an entry to the franchise is because its lack of map destruction. The map destruction, even today after updates, feels meaningless. It doesn't feel player caused. It kind of feels too programmed and fake, and you don't have as much of an impact as you should. Despite that, I'm very happy to report that after games and games in the beta, the map destruction in Battlefield 6 is some of the best this franchise has ever seen. Does it reach the heights of Battlefield 1 or 5? I don't know, and I'm gonna have to experiment with more maps, but I can confidently say that it really is a return to form. You see, in this game, buildings gone, like in the Siege of Cairo map. And even on Liberation Peak, which is my least favorite map, the village at the bottom can be just destroyed. Tanks feel really impactful as well as balanced. And overall, the map destruction is A+. The biggest plus that Battlefield 6 has going for it is how great it looks. The smoke, the explosions, the fire add a lot to the cinematics of this game. So it really pleases me and puts Battlefield 6 on the right track that their map destruction is A+. The developers weren't messing around when they worked on the map destruction.
Attack and target the objectives. Take ground and control it at all costs. Let's move.
Alright, let's touch on another aspect that makes Battlefield so great, the teamwork. One of my favorite things about the Battlefield games is jumping on with my friends and rolling around to objectives together. Going from A to C, then flanking around to E. All of those make each game feel really impacted by your squad. One of my favorite aspects on Battlefield 5 is that as a squad leader, you can call things in like an airstrike or smoke. Not only does this make the game more cinematic, but it really puts an impact that you can have with your squad in the game. One of my favorite things in Battlefield 1, and I know this is small, is that if you are the squad leader and you use the chat and say go, 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 you blow a whistle which sounds straight out of a war movie. It's cinematic and honestly, even though it's small, one of my favorite things in that game. Unfortunately, just like map destruction, 2042 really forgets what it was doing with all of this. I don't think the teamwork in that game is even anywhere near as good as any other Battlefield game. In fact, I think it's non-existent. I never spawn on my teammates in that game. In fact, I usually don't even know who my teammates are, because every game, why would I not just spawn on top of the skyscraper and wingsuit parachute off the top? Really, the teamwork aspect in this game makes playing it so unfun, because with my friends, it doesn't even feel fun or impactful. Battlefield 6 though, oh man, it really takes us back to original games. I think Battlefield 6 has better team play than we've gotten in a long time in any Battlefield. The maps are tight enough where you can roll around with your friends, and it's really honestly beneficial being close to your squad. Reviving each other, drag reviving, and 2v1ing is a game changer. Not to mention, the objectives capture really slow in this game, which makes having a couple people on an objective great. All this together means that you and your friends can really roll and make a big difference on the team. And overall, I'm just so excited to play more of this game when it comes out with my friends. I think the teamwork is one of the best aspects. A+.
Launched on Delta. Be advised, enemy forces are winning the fight.
Alright, let's discuss the classes. I'm not even going to touch on Battlefield 2042 because it's been done so many times. The operator system combined with open weapons just does not work with the Battlefield identity. Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, as we know, had the classes locked down. Each class felt impactful, had their own role, their weapons were locked, it's great. Battlefield 6, going into the beta, I was actually really pleased and excited about the classes. It seemed like they really had done something to change it, and I thought it could be positive. But after playing it and really giving it some thought, the classes in this game just don't live up to what they were in Battlefield 1 and 5. The Assault class feels just about useless, and I know they announced that they're going to move the spawn beacon to the Assault, and unfortunately I don't think this is going to make much of a difference. Assault feels kind of lifeless. Even though the map destruction is great, the rocket launchers just feel kind of, you don't have an identity, because why wouldn't you just play engineer at that point? Carrying 2 primaries is fun, but this just makes it feel like Call of Duty. On the other hand, the medic class, support class, feels overpowered now because they get the buff of giving ammo to teammates while still having the healing, which is already one of the best classes in the game. So the recon class still feels good, but now they're getting messed with to help the assault. So really, I don't think the class system in this game is as good as previous games. Not to mention the open weapons, which I don't have a complete problem with, because I think the class identity can still be defined while using any weapon. But I do think closed weapons was healthy for the game because it really made you lean into how your class plays. Overall, the classes in Battlefield 6 aren't bad. They just are a downgrade from older games, which, you know, if it's not broken, why fix it? Alright, let's touch on one of my favorite aspects in the whole Battlefield franchise. My absolute favorite thing about Battlefield 1, and I could rant all day, but it's the sound design. The sounds in that game are absolutely amazing. The gunshots echo throughout the map. The explosions literally shake the screen, and sometimes shake my couch. And the vehicles sound amazing. The player sounds sound amazing. The footsteps sound amazing. Everything sounds amazing. 2042 definitely wasn't as good, like everything, but I don't think the sounds overall were as bad as some other aspects. Except the sounds of the guns. The sounds of the guns in that game sounded like pea shooters from Plants vs. Zombies, not guns from Battlefield. But I am pleased to say Battlefield 6 makes a return to good sounds. Now, is it as good as 1? Not a chance. Is it good? Absolutely. Sounds of the guns are loud. Snipers can echo, especially if you put it on war tapes mode. Explosions sound loud, thorough, and really do shake the screen. Vehicles sound great, especially the jets. Man, the jets, every time they go by my ears, oh man, they sound amazing. Helicopters and jets, they nail. Pretty much every sound sounds great. Footstep sounds, sounds of other soldiers, guns, vehicles. Shoot, even wind effects on some maps sound just really amazing, and it makes the game cinematic and fun to play. That's really all I have to say about the sounds. They really nailed it. A+. Alright, next I want to hit on the gunplay. This is definitely going to be important for Battlefield because it's been really hit or miss. I think Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 to a degree have had some of the best guns in any shooter game ever. The noises, the sound the guns make, and the feel of the guns is super crispy and satisfying, and they were amazing to use. 2042 literally took this off a cliff. The guns in 2042 are some of the worst I've ever played with. It feels more like Roblox than a polished Battlefield game. The guns had no recoil, no realism, and killed people way too quick. And from too far away, there was no bullet drop. Now, Battlefield 6, I'm happy to say, definitely is a bit of a return to form. I'm already going to preface this and say I do not think it's as good as Battlefield 1. The guns in that game are on another level, but this is certainly better than 2042. The guns have really realistic recoil. They feel great to use, and they allow you to engage in some awesome and fun firefights. I'm not going to touch on the open weapon system, but it's a lot of assault rifles, as you would expect. But luckily, I can report that besides the assault rifles, the guns are great. Snipers feel satisfying, as ever. Carbine rifles, actually, were one of my favorite guns to use, especially on longer range maps. The shotgun is extremely fun. The SMGs are powerful as ever. The LMGs are a bit of a mixed bag. I do think they're strong, but in this game, where the time to kill is really, really fast up close, I think they falter a little bit, and I think that an assault rifle is mostly better. And obviously some of the balancing is a little off, but just in the beta, I'm not going to fault them too much for that. But in total, the guns in this game feel great. It's really fun leveling up guns, putting your attachments on, and then moving on to the next one. And switching often is fun to a shotgun or a sniper or a carbine rifle, SMG. Overall, the guns in this game are great. They nailed it. Congratulations. Moving on.
Defensive position needed on the marked objective.
Alright, let's talk about maps. This is definitely one of the most mixed aspects I've had coming out of my experience in the beta. Making great maps in Battlefield is challenging with 32 people, because they need to feel like open enough and big enough so that it feels like an all-out war. But it can't be so large that you have to like walk for miles and miles to get to objectives like you did in 2042. Battlefield 1 and 5 really nail the maps. Battlefield 5 has great sized maps that are large and feel like an all-out war. Battlefield 1 also has some of my favorite maps. 6 is more of a mixed bag. A lot of the maps feel smaller than I believe they should, but I still think the maps in this game can generally be considered a success. It's hard to judge how it'll be when the full game comes out, but let me touch on each of the 4 maps in the beta from my least favorite to my favorite. Firstly, Liberation Peak, it's just definitely my least favorite. I think it fails to capture how a wide open Battlefield map should be. The objective C up on the hill and the mountain in general don't look nearly as sharp as in previous games. Compared to Merida or Norvik in Battlefield 5, which is 7 years old, this map just doesn't come off quite as sharp on the visual side. Furthermore, the down low area, like Objective D, doesn't feel expansive enough to feel like a real village that you're fighting in. This map is definitely the one I got sick of first as well in the beta. Next is Siege of Cairo. I had trouble deciding whether this was my second or third place map, but I ended up deciding on third. The biggest thing about this map is that it's beautiful. The Cairo theme really shows off the strengths of Battlefield 6 in the graphics department. I do think the map falls short when you look at the individual objectives and the flow of players. C is just crowded and doesn't really feel good to fight in, and I almost ignore it in every game I play. The flow of players, like I mentioned, does feel sloppy in really close games where both teams are good, but despite that, this is still a great map thanks to its beautiful visuals and well-designed streets. Next is Empire State. This still will take a bit of thinking for me on whether I really love it or just like it, but for now I like it a bit more than Cairo. I think the buildings on this map are really well designed. They have multiple layers, and it feels like I'll never learn the in and out of each building. Not to mention, the way the streets wind around the buildings allows for awesome flanks and shooting angles. Despite the small size, I think it shows off the best of Battlefield when it comes to close quarters. Now, my favorite map in the game by far is Iberian Offensive. I think this is the best designed map in Battlefield 6. It's a great mix of open and closed areas, and the streets winding through the middle really capture the feeling you're looking for. And I think the map is perfect in terms of sizing. It feels large, while being compact enough to feel like an all-out war in the 32 vs 32 modes. Overall, the maps in Battlefield 6 are definitely a mixed bag, but mostly a success. I'm really looking forward to playing every map that comes out when the game is fully launched. Alright, to finish up here, let's just go through a couple other small things. One is movement. The movement in this game is a really great return to form. You're not too fast, it's not too much like Call of Duty. It feels a lot actually like Battlefield 5. In fact, it's very reminiscent. There's the sprinting, you have the crouch sprinting. The like jump roll is pretty fun when you can pull it off. The sliding and diving feels satisfying but definitely isn't overpowered. And overall the movement feels fresh. Adding to that, other mechanics, throwing grenades feels really good. It's not quite realistic, but it feels arcadey and satisfying for sure. Revives. Oh man, how have I not touched on that? The drag revive is potentially my favorite thing in the entire game. It makes for cinematic moments, and it's tactical and gameplay oriented. What more could you want? They make moments awesome, and when you're a hero and drag your friend out of combat and revive him, you really do feel awesome. Moving on, progression. I really like what they did with the gun attachment system, and this is another one of my favorite things in the game. The way you have 100 points and you can spend them however you like is awesome, and I found myself going for like 5-10 minutes in that screen just messing around with stuff and trying to get my points to a perfect 100 while customizing. Not to mention the attachments really do make a difference, and the stats are present. You can read the stats while you customize the guns. But yeah, the attachments make a big difference. I like making my guns super good for hipfire, and the hipfire is strong and satisfying. Like with an assault rifle, you can totally knock someone medium range with some good hipfire. So yeah, overall, all the little things in this game they nailed. I almost experienced no bugs through any of my playthroughs. Games felt full. You weren't joining like super halfway most of the time. The map rotation, it wasn't like I was playing the same maps over and over again. So overall, they nailed the little aspects of this game, and I think that really elevates it. That takes it from like mid-tier to I think a really great game because it feels polished and it feels like they care. Overall, Battlefield 6 is really great. Alright, so in conclusion, Battlefield 6. Obviously, it's an unprecedented success. This beta, I'm sure even the developers had no idea it would be this big. But you can tell their hard work really paid off with this. People are thrilled. I've seen it all over. The queue times for the beta itself were long. They really nailed it. So is it safe to say Battlefield is back? I think so. This does feel like a return to form of the oldest Battlefield games, 3 and 4, and it feels like we're pushing into a new age for these games. But to conclude, I want to rank all the categories we've gone over from 1 to 10, and we can make something of a final score with that. So map destruction starting off is 9 out of 10. Close to perfect for sure, which is why I got a 9. But it does lack sometimes on some maps, but really it's a complete return to form for the franchise. Definitely 9 out of 10. Team play, 10 out of 10. Playing with my friends was so fun in this beta. It really feels like they leaned into the team play as hard as they could, and you feel it because going to objectives with your friends is just unbelievable amounts of fun, and when you win in a close game, it feels really great. Classes, 6 out of 10. I touched on a lot of this, but at least it's not as bad as 2042. You know, they've gone back to the original form, but they had to also make these unnecessary changes which make assault feel kind of pointless and support feel overpowered. But overall, 6 out of 10. Sound design, 10 out of 10. They nailed it across the board like I was talking about. I could gush about it for a long time. Everything sounds amazing. The guns, the tanks, the vehicles, the planes, even the footsteps. Everything's great, 10 out of 10 for that. Gunplay, 8 out of 10. Is it as good as Battlefield 1? I don't think so. Is it good? Absolutely. Nowhere near as bad as 2042. The guns feel realistic, fun to shoot, firefights are satisfying. Positive 8 out of 10. Maps, 7 out of 10. The tight maps felt great, but I think the one open map experience we really got wasn't the best in this beta. And I hope that we can get some maps that live up to Battlefield 1 and 5 when the full game comes out in terms of scale. But it's definitely not bad, 7 out of 10. And then finally, just overall polish, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It feels like the developers really cared about the game, and you can feel their touch throughout, and it feels like they cared. It wasn't cheap, it wasn't buggy at all. I touched on a lot of this, but really 9 out of 10. And that brings the average score in the end to an 8.5 out of 10, which is really good and honestly does reflect how I'm feeling about the game. It's great. Is it groundbreaking? Is it a groundbreaking new thing? I don't think so. Is it a great entry to the franchise and a great return to form and a ton of fun? Absolutely, which is why I think an 8.5 is deserved. But with that, just to conclude, let's all get ready for the full game to come out in just a couple months. That wait's gonna be brutal after the little taste we got. But leave your thoughts down below. If you have anything to say about Battlefield 6, any of the older Battlefield games, I'd love to hear. Anyways, see you later.